There are creatures in Scripture whose presence feels too large for the world they inhabit, beings described not to embellish myth, but to pull back a curtain on realities older than human language. Leviathan is one of them. It is not introduced with drama or build-up. It simply emerges from the deep like something creation itself remembers with trembling. The Bible never calls it a monster and never calls it a myth. Instead, it is spoken of with a solemnity reserved only for things tied directly to the earliest chaos. And its existence opens a question that echoes like a tremor through the spiritual realms. Why was Leviathan too powerful even for Michael, the archangel who commands heaven's armies? The answer does not begin with battle, it begins with awe, with a moment in which even the celestial realm stands still, recognizing a force that existed before conflict, before rebellion, before the stars were placed in order. The mystery of Leviathan is not found in its size or shape, but in the story behind God's words in Job 41. This is not poetry meant to instill fear. It is revelation delivered from the mouth of the Creator himself. God describes Leviathan not as an enemy he must subdue, but as a creature he formed intentionally, purposefully, and with power woven into its very bones. If Michael trembled before Leviathan, it was not because the creature was evil, but because it bore a form of strength granted by God alone. Michael, whose authority commands lightning and whose presence terrifies fallen thrones, stands powerless before Leviathan for one reason. Leviathan's power has no rebellion in it. It has no origin in pride. It has no connection to the fall. Leviathan is not a threat to God's throne. It is a reminder that only God can govern what he himself designed with unmatched ferocity. When God asks Job, "Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook?" he is not asking to mock human weakness. He is revealing a truth about hierarchy. There are realms of authority that even the greatest angels cannot enter. Leviathan does not respond to the commands of heaven's generals. Its obedience is reserved for the one whose breath formed the oceans it sleeps within. Michael's power is derivative. Leviathan's power is primordial. The ancients believed Leviathan represented the raw, untamed edges of creation, the part of the world that was never meant to be governed by human dominion or angelic administration. The angels, even the highest of them, operate within the boundaries of assignment. They serve, they protect, they wage war. Leviathan, however, does not serve. Leviathan exists. Its purpose is not tactical but symbolic. It is a living reminder that creation contains depths unreachable by any being except God. This becomes clearer in Isaiah 27, where Leviathan is described not as a beast merely roaming the sea, but as a spiritual entity that God alone will punish or slay in a future act of cosmic justice. The language is not military, it is judicial. Leviathan is not defeated in battle, it is sentenced by decree. Angels fight, God judges. Michael may stand at the front of heaven's armies, but Leviathan waits only for the voice of God. Michael, for all his strength, operates under heaven's order. His battles are assignments. He fights fallen angels, restrains demonic princes, defends nations, and contends for the souls of the righteous. If Leviathan were a demon or a fallen creature, Michael would have been dispatched without hesitation. But Leviathan belongs to an older category, a class of beings fashioned in the tension between chaos and creation, molded not to serve heaven, but to declare something about the God who masters the unmasterable. This is why Job trembles as God speaks. This is why the description feels like thunder etched into text. God is not telling Job a story, he is reminding him of scale. Not the creature's scale, but his own. Leviathan's power is not a challenge to God. It is a reflection of him. When its eyes shine with dawn fire and its breath releases smoke like a living furnace, it does not imitate evil, it imitates the terrifying majesty of the one who shaped it. Imagine Michael, the great prince of Israel, encountering the creature. Not in battle, but in recognition. Angels are not omniscient. They learn. They witness. They adjust their understanding of God as he reveals more of himself through creation. If Michael once faced Leviathan, the moment would not have been defined by fear, but by revelation. A revelation that even his strength that once cast Lucifer from heaven was limited when standing before something that had no rebellion in it, no fracture, no sin. Leviathan's power is not corrupted power. It is sanctioned power. And nothing in heaven or on earth has the right to challenge what God has sanctioned. The reason Leviathan appears so rarely in Scripture is that it does not belong to the rhythm of human history. Its story is tied to the beginning and the end. God speaks of it in Job to remind humanity of humility. Isaiah speaks of it in prophecy to point toward final justice. Between these 2 points, heaven is silent. No angel slays it, no demon commands it, no prophet binds it. Leviathan's existence is suspended between what was foundational and what will be concluded. The spiritual world is not a battlefield of equal forces. It is a hierarchy shaped by origin. Michael is a being of assignment. Leviathan is a being of intention. Michael's authority is immense, but it is borrowed. Leviathan's power is immense, but it is designed. One obeys because he is a servant. The other exists because God willed it. This difference is what makes Leviathan untouchable to angels, not because it is too evil, but because it is too sovereignly appointed, and yet the story does not end in the deep. It ends with a promise. Isaiah tells us that in the end, when history completes its circle, God himself will confront Leviathan. Not because Leviathan is an enemy to be feared, but because its purpose will have reached completion. The creature that once symbolized the untamable forces of creation will be brought to closure by the only one who has ever commanded it. This is not a battle, it is a signature. A divine final act that belongs to God alone. Michael's power shines brightest when he stands where he belongs, defending, warring, protecting, guiding. Leviathan's power speaks loudest when it remains where God placed it, in the deep, untouched by angels, unclaimed by darkness, accountable only to the voice that spoke light into existence. Their roles do not clash. They reveal different facets of God's sovereignty. Michael reveals God's authority over the spiritual realm. Leviathan reveals God's authority over creation's deepest mysteries. And in that revelation lies the true awe of the story. It is not about a creature too strong for an angel. It is about a God whose designs transcend even the mightiest beings of heaven. It is about a universe layered with meaning, where some things are entrusted to angels and other things are reserved for God alone. Michael's inability to defeat Leviathan is not limitation, it is order. Leviathan's power is not threat, it is testimony.